Saturday, September 14th, on the undercard of Alvarez versus Berlanga, saw the return to the ring of former IBF world titleist Caleb Plant. And Plant came back to the ring against a tenacious fighter by the name of Trevor McCUMBY. And this fight proved to be a test of wills for Plant. But given the fact that he is a former world titleist and tried and tested, Caleb was able to prevail. But let's talk about this fight and what happened and how things will be measuring up for Caleb going forward. I think I can see a silver lining in it all for him. So let's talk about it. Boxing is forever a sport that we can count on being exciting when we least expect it and intriguing almost each and every outing. And such was the case on Saturday night when Caleb Plant took on Trevor McCUMBY, a fighter that is little known in the sport, but I had a chance to look into his career of bouts before facing Caleb, and I found out one thing about this gentleman. He can crack, and he's very strong. Almost like that old school strong, you know, the men from the 50s or the 40s who were just naturally strong. And Caleb found that out as early as near the bell of the first round, the ending bell, when he was hit with a left hook that dropped him solidly. Caleb was hurt and found himself going back to the corner in a fog. But McCUMBY, who seemed to enjoy the fact that he was able to show his strength against Caleb, was all brawn and used very little boxing IQ. And this gave Caleb all that he needed to be able to survive the strength factor that was prevalent within the first 3 to 4 rounds. As Caleb began to respond, the initial game plan of boxing using angles and making McCUMBY look off balance and inept, that didn't work. He threw a left hook that Caleb caught on his arm, and it still knocked Caleb to the floor and nearly out of the ring as he slid under the ropes. This was something that was not anticipated, and so when we witnessed it, it was like, oh my goodness, this kid is really strong. So Caleb had to adjust, and he did so beautifully. As the fight went on, McCUMBY, who had not been past 6 rounds, began to show fatigue as Caleb went in and began to work in close. He took the fight to him, pressed him up against the ropes, backing him, putting him on the back foot. And even when McCUMBY might try to step outside of that, Caleb was doing it to him consistently. And this is where the lack of experience and know-how showed up for McCUMBY. You see, when he entered this bout, he came in undefeated, and his record of 28-0, which is now 28-1, with 21 KOs showed that he was accustomed to getting after someone and being done before midway the fight is over. But that wasn't to be the case against Caleb, whose record now rises to 23-2 with 14 KOs. Those 2 losses on Caleb's record are important because they came to 2 fighters whom tested him in different ways. First, it was his fight against Canelo Alvarez, where he lost his IBF title in a unification match. Caleb was stopped against Canelo, and that fight proved that he would have to work on some things. He bounced back from that bout with a victory by KO over Anthony Durrell. But then the second loss in March of 2023 against David Benavidez, a unanimous decision, which he dropped, and he looked worse for wear toward the end of the fight as his stamina seemingly betrayed him, or if it was the pressure of Benavidez. But the 32-year-old Plant found something against Trevor in this fight that may not have always existed there. And that was the fact that he had fortitude. He had experience, something to draw from. And that's exactly what he did. He drew from that experience of having lost before to bigger and better opponents. McCUMBY had never really been in the ring against anyone who was better than he, but until Saturday night. And that was Plant, who began to work him on the inside, pressuring shots, uppercuts, hooks to the body, keeping him pressed against the ropes to the point that uninterested McCUMBY began to show up. Maybe it was a lack of confidence. Maybe he began to see the bright lights of where he actually found himself. But nonetheless, it was where Caleb put him, and that was toward the end of the fight. He was able to stop McCUMBY. The fight ended with Caleb swarming him against the ropes for a TKO stoppage at the end of the 8th round. The bell rang, and that was it. McCUMBY was done. But Caleb is not. And so we'll get to see him again. And what I'm thinking is there is possibly a great chance at a rematch with Canelo Alvarez. You see, Caleb is not really a knockout puncher like that with the threat of being able to get a guy out by hitting him on the chin, but he can box, and he boxes very well, and he appears to be someone that's popular. Canelo may consider a second go-round with Plant. It's a safekeeping fight, the type that Canelo likes, where he's in the driver's seat. And Canelo also knows that Plant respects him. But will he actually pull the trigger and give Plant a rematch? Something that is rare when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, but something to be considered. And if he does, we can look at that toward May of next year. Because Canelo, who's currently on the baby tour with the young fighters, may look for someone that he can get a solid payday once again, as he's in the twilight of what he's doing. And Plant may be able to offer a different type of fight for the wily, grizzled veteran in Alvarez. It's an interesting problem to have, but I believe at the end of the day, Plant is ready to make another move toward a title shot. And if Canelo cooperates, it could work out well for both of them. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man, Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes down to what may be next for Caleb Plant. Do you think that Canelo will give him a second go? Leave comments and let's discuss. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.